Car dealer never cashed $7,500 down payment check I gave them. Long story short, bought a car in December 2021 and gave them a check for $7,500 for down payment. Almost a month later, the dealership called and said they need a new check because finance manager accidentally shredded the check and gave me a $50 discount for the stop payment and my time. I gave them a new check within a week or so after they called me, but they never deposited the check. It's been more than 4 years now, and it bothers me a little bit that I'm taking advantage of some sort of mistake. But then again, I've done my part, I think. Faked appendicitis to get out of school, and they actually took it out. When I, 38F, was a kid, I faked sick. A lot. Towards the end of my 4th grade year, I realized I needed to up my game if I wanted to keep missing school. Both my dad and brother had had appendicitis, so I knew it was on the lower right side of the body. Woke up the next day and pretended to have said pains. Things went great at first. No school, house to myself. Then, later that night, my parents invited my neighbor over who was a nurse. She asked me some questions and pushed on my stomach. Next thing I know, I'm being taken to the hospital. They run a myriad of tests on me. Weirdly enough, my white cell count was high even though I wasn't really sick. They do an ultrasound, and I almost piss my pants. Those things are the worst. Lastly, they even send in the official diagnostic doctor. Basically, he's like House. He asks me all these weird questions and pulls and pushes on random limbs. I say ow randomly, hoping I don't get made. They ask me like 35 times whether it's my first period, and after the 35th no, they send me upstairs to prep for surgery. This is when I start to internally freak out. I had gone too far and felt like I couldn't back out and was terrified my parents were going to flip out on me. So I went through with it. Recovering from surgery was one of the most painful experiences of my life. And it wasn't until I told my therapist about 10 years later that I even realized how dangerous it was. Edit. I find it kind of funny that a story about me making a huge lie is being accused of being a lie. Karma, I guess LOL. 3 years ago, I convinced all of my friends that I went to Japan for summer break, with pictures that weren't taken in Japan. These pictures weren't exactly fake. Let me tell you the whole story. I am from a country, or a town, where it's still completely normal and out of the norm to not go abroad for summer break. My whole life, the only place I went to for summer break was Kosovo, because that's where my dad is from, and we always had to visit family for a month during the summer. I was in a group of friends with only weebs, and I wanted to be cool for once, so I lied to them and told them my older sister booked a holiday for both of us in Japan. Obviously, they wanted proof, so what I did was, I would take aesthetic pictures in Kosovo and put a filter on top and sold it to them that this is Japan. One of my cousins works in a sushi restaurant in Pristina, so I would go there, take pictures of the sushi and shit, and told them that this place in Tokyo is so good. I am still friends with some of them, and they still believe that I was in Japan and are jealous that I have been to Japan and they haven't. I lied about a miscarriage when I was 17, and I need to get it off my chest. When I was 17, I had just broken up with my ex, who was cheating on me, and my period was late, so I took a test which had a positive line. The line was definitely there, so I told my close friends that I was pregnant. A few days passed, and I had cramps, which turned into a heavy and painful period, which I thought was a miscarriage. However, I went to the hospital and they said they couldn't detect anything, and I couldn't have been pregnant. The test must have been faulty. I am 20 now, and I still can't get over the guilt. I didn't know much about pregnancy or anything back then, and haven't told anyone I wasn't actually pregnant. but I genuinely thought I was. I have had a few scares years later and realize many tests can be faulty and have had full dark lines that are nothing. I feel so guilty considering many people have miscarriages, and I lied about it because I thought I was pregnant. I feel like such a bad person. I feel like I will carry this guilt forever. I lied about a miscarriage when I was 17, and I need to get it off my chest. When I was 17, I had just broken up with my ex, who was cheating on me, and my period was late, so I took a test, which had a positive line. The line was definitely there, so I told my close friends that I was pregnant. A few days passed, and I had cramps, which turned into a heavy and painful period, which I thought was a miscarriage. However, I went to the hospital, and they said they couldn't detect anything, and I couldn't have been pregnant. The test must have been faulty. I am 20 now, and I still can't get over the guilt. I didn't know much about pregnancy or anything back then, and haven't told anyone I wasn't actually pregnant, but I genuinely thought I was. I have had a few scares years later, and realize many tests can be faulty and have had full dark lines that are nothing. I feel so guilty considering many people have miscarriages, and I lied about it because I thought I was pregnant. I feel like such a bad person. I feel like I will carry this guilt forever. I'm a grown adult who has spent hundreds of dollars on stuffed animals, and I can't sleep without cuddling at least one of them. I know this isn't the worst thing in the world, but I'm really self-conscious of it regardless. Sharks are my favorite animal, and I've spent the last 3 or so years building up my collection of shark stuff. I have at least 12 stuffed animal sharks, and I'm always buying more. I know it's not good to buy this much useless junk like this, and I don't want to think of how much money I've spent on shark items alone. Definitely $200 minimum. But I just can't help it. They're the cutest things in the world to me. The really embarrassing part is that now, every time I go to sleep, I have to be cuddling at least one of my plushies. There are 2 specific ones that I really like, and I tend to go to sleep hugging both of them. Even right now, as I'm typing this, I'm bundled up with them both. I think part of the reason is that I got my first and favorite stuffed shark during a really bad time in my life, where I was struggling with anxiety, panic attacks in class, and issues with body image. I thankfully no longer experience panic/anxiety attacks, but during that time, I found a lot of comfort in holding that stuffed animal. I honestly only bought it as a joke at the time. I didn't care one way or the other for sharks when I bought it, but it still ended up being really helpful for me to have. It was so nice to have something big and soft that I could hold as tightly as I needed to, cry into, and talk about my feelings to without having to worry about being judged. Anytime my heart started getting all fluttery and anxious, holding onto my plushie was always an easy way to help me calm down and ground myself. I ended up naming it and started referring to it as a her instead of an it, and it's been a huge item of comfort for me ever since. I think because of that, my brain just associates sharks with happiness and safety now or something. Anytime I see a picture of one, I can't help but get all giggly, and holding on to that plushie still makes me feel so at ease, no matter what. I've also been struggling with my mental health again lately. In some ways, I'm doing better mentally than I was in high school, but much worse in other ways. Regardless, having a somewhat healthy coping mechanism has been really helpful during all this, even if it is super embarrassing to talk about as a grown woman.